single year's worth of cash flow, and of course, to strengthen their balance sheet.
Dow Chemical still insists it is not liable and has asked the Houston judge to review Wednesday's verdict. Kelly Arena, CNN Business News, New York.
Baseball spring training officially begins tomorrow in Florida and Arizona. No end in sight, however, to the baseball strike. The game's powers that be spent much of the day in Washington. They were lobbying Congress. Acting Commissioner Bud Selig urged a Senate committee not to tinker with baseball's exemption from antitrust laws. And Selig's adversary, Players Union leader Donald Fehr, has said he will recommend an end to that strike if Congress would pass legislation allowing the union to sue the owners.
This legislation also would not affect any other sport or business. This legislation would not impose any terms of settlement on the disputing parties, nor would it require that the parties reach a settlement. Rather, it would simply remove a serious impediment to settlement.
The burden of proof is on those who seek to justify baseball's exemption from the law. No other business or professional amateur sport is possessed of the exemption from law that Major League Baseball has enjoyed and has abused.
There is a further burden, of course. Both the House and Senate leadership have said that they are not interested in intervening in the baseball strike. Well, if opening day does come before this strike is resolved, the owners have vowed to open on schedule. They would use replacement players. But it certainly may not be business as usual at major league stadiums. The Teamsters Union and some service employee unions tell Moneyline that they will not cross picket lines to do their jobs. And that could mean baseball without beer, soda, or even ballpark franks. Kathleen Behoff has our story from Chicago.
Replacements may be hitting home runs on the field, but the fans could strike out trying to get refreshments. The Teamsters Union delivers beer and soft drinks to all but 3 major league ballparks, and they won't cross picket lines if baseball players set them up. The AFL-CIO says their 10,000 concession and janitor workers won't work either.
It is the strength of the labor movement that everybody stands together when one is being hurt.
Such support might be considered surprising. The baseball union isn't affiliated with any other union, and million-dollar salaries place athletes in a different working class. Experts say the issue of replacement workers is driving the support.
Every time that an employer gets away with using replacement workers, especially in some case like this, which is very high profile, it encourages other employers to do the same.
Still undetermined how many local contracts have clauses prohibiting union members from honoring another union strike, and whether the players will actually picket. Without picket lines, union members go to work as usual. But if history is any guide, many unions joined striking football players on the picket line during the 1987 strike as replacements played inside the stadiums. Kathleen Behoff, CNN Business News, Chicago.
Just ahead here on Moneyline, we'll have more for you on today's record-setting performance on Wall Street. We'll also take a look at a corporate giant in the midst of a difficult restructuring. The new chief executive officer at Kodak learning that pleasing Wall Street can be, at the very least, a painful challenge. Stay with us.
We asked two-time Indy winner Emerson Fittipaldi to be involved in the development of the Chrysler Cirrus. It wasn't to have him help sell the car. It was to have him help refine it. He pushed it to the limits around the track. He made suggestions. The engineers listened. The engineers made suggestions, and he listened. The result of this collaboration is a specially modified double wishbone suspension system unlike any other on the road today. The Chrysler Cirrus, Motor Trend's car of the year. It's not just a step above. It's the new plateau.
I'm playing Pete's Comedy Pagoda tonight. I'm staying here at the Super 8 Motel. My favorite place. I love this room, don't you? Super 8 rooms are always affordable and roomy. And Steve, what a great TV. Just like mine, except this one works. 4 more hours to showtime. Okay, new joke. That's funny. No, it's not.
Super 8. 1-800-800-8000. Over 1,000 affordable, comfortable locations nationwide. Life's great at Super 8.
KitchenAid ranges mirror nature in surprising ways, with even warmth, strength that endures, a mystery that unfolds. The fire of creation, all someplace a little closer to home. KitchenAid freestanding ranges, built-in ovens and cooktops. Because we took a cooking lesson from Mother Nature. KitchenAid, for the way it's made.
It's been a little more than a year since George Fisher took over as Chief Executive Officer at Kodak. So far, investors give Fisher mixed grades for his performance running the troubled company, high marks for vision for enhancing shareholder value, but not for cost cutting. Fisher spent today meeting with Wall Street analysts and also with our Steve Young, who is here now. And Steve, is this another case of Wall Street expecting too much, not getting what it wants?
Well, it's a case of Wall Street expecting quick fixes, which usually is job cutting, Lou. But to the consternation of any Wall Street analysts, Fisher says he'll resist an easy solution in order to get a better long-term payoff. George Fisher unveiled as Kodak CEO, and a snapshot about a year later. He has sold off Kodak's healthcare businesses, used the $8 billion proceeds to retire debt. He's also unwound derivatives on the balance sheet. In the marketplace, Kodak is gaining share in Asia against the dominant film company there, Fuji. Wall Street likes that, and a 20% gain in Kodak stock since Fisher entered the picture. He's repositioning the company for future growth, which must come from film and digital technology. But Wall Street is restless. After many earlier restructurings, it wants heads to roll.
I do understand the long-term view that Fisher has, and I think that will work out, but I would like to see a somewhat greater sense of urgency about the short-term cost structure of the company.
The financial community and our owners shouldn't be counting people, they should be counting profits. The fundamental is, do you earn more? Do you put in place strategies at a business level that helps the shareholders get more in the long term?
Fisher expects senior managers to make headcount decisions appropriate to each unit. There will be no across-the-board job-cutting formula.
There will be parts of our business where we will have more resource of various kinds than is appropriate. At the same time, we will have other parts of our business where we ought to be making investments.
Analysts were disappointed that Fisher didn't commit to specific short-term cost cuts. So while the market soared, Kodak stock sagged. Fisher is sharply focusing on growth, but analysts say if he doesn't get around to cost issues by next year, this time next year, the Kodak picture will be a lot less pretty. Lou?
Steve, thank you. Perhaps the prospect of that lot less pretty picture helped to send Kodak stock lower today, which lost $1. The Dow Jones Industrial Average, however, soared 39 points early in the session, finally settling back a bit, but nonetheless, as we've reported to you, the Dow tonight in a new record level. The Dow Jones Industrials ending the session at 3986.17, a gain of 27.92, and volume heavy, trading more than 378,800,000 shares traded, while advancing issues beat out decliners by a margin of just about 2-1. The composite rose 1.06, the S&P 500 setting a second consecutive record, gaining 1.99. The Dow Transports up 16.07 with strength in the railroads helping. The Dow Utilities with the firm bond market gaining 0.92. The NASDAQ Composite Index 795.63, up 5.01. And the NASDAQ, by the way, is now just about 9 points shy of its all-time record, and heavy trading as well on the over-the-counter today, 382 million shares. The American Exchange Composite, 449.35 at the close, a gain of 1.86, volume just over 18 million shares. In tonight's Moneyline movers, led by WellPoint Health Network, surging $4 a share. The HMO refused to comment on a Wall Street Journal report that it has now up to 5 potential buyers. Applied Materials tacking on $2.25 a share. The high-tech company reporting an almost 50% increase in its quarterly earnings. Zenith Electronics losing more than $2 a share today. The company narrowed its fourth quarter losses, but investors had expected a better performance. Conseco falling $4 a share, reporting a 99% drop in its quarterly profits. A charge for its failed merger attempt with Kemper partly to blame. Intuit dropping $3. A federal judge's decision to block Microsoft's antitrust settlement with the government raised new questions about its planned buyout of Intuit.
To a degree, the most important outcome of the judge's decision might be the effect that it has on the Intuit acquisition, in that given all the media attention and everyone focusing in on Microsoft and their antitrust practices, I think that that acquisition is going to undergo probably the most extreme scrutiny.
Well, Microsoft today saying it respectfully but strenuously disagrees with the judge's decision. The judge did all his talking yesterday. Microsoft stock finishing down 1 1/8. Apple Computer easing 3/8 licensing rights to make its Macintosh computers to Japan's Pioneer Electronics. That's Pioneer's first foray into the PC business. Allied Signal today up 75 cents a share, buying Bud Company's wheel and brake division from Germany's Thyssen for an undisclosed amount. Bud supplies components to all the big three car makers. McDonnell Douglas up a $0.50. California persuading the company to keep its MD-11 jet assembly line in the state, promising tax breaks, utility rate cuts, as well as labor concessions. And Telefonos de Mexico losing 2 1/8 today. Mexican stocks today falling almost 6.5% to a 17-month low in the bolsa. The peso falling as well on a spike in Mexican interest rates. Well, Piper Jaffray today reaching a settlement with disgruntled shareholders. The company agreed to pay $70 million as retribution for big losses in one of its bond funds. Investors claiming they lost $118 million over a 3-year period. Those losses in large part because of sour derivative investments. That settlement enables Piper now to avoid what was likely to be a long and costly legal battle. Piper's chairman says the payout will have no adverse impact on the company's financial condition. Well, just ahead, I'll be talking with a senator who has his eye on farm subsidies and perhaps the presidential primary calendar as well. My guest tonight, Senator Richard Lugar of Indiana. Stay with us.
Up and graduated.
Yes, ma'am. Would you excuse us, please?
Oh.
Ken, I've got just one word for you.
Uh-huh.
Plastics.
Exactly what do you mean, sir?
Plastics, Ken. Great opportunity. Remember it.
One word, Ken. Aggregates.
Sir?
Sand, gravel, old as the planet, Ken.
I remember one thing, Ken.
Bricks.
Bricks.
Asphalt.
Do you ever think about lumber, Ken?
One word, Ken. Coal. It's power, Ken.
One word, Ken. Hanson.
Mrs. Parkinson, are you trying to seduce me?
I'm trying to teach you about the basics, Ken.
This is RICO, the incredible expanding fax, the world's fastest digital laser color copier, the MV715, fax, copier, and laser printer in one compact machine. And soon, partnered with Microsoft, the intelligent fax system, communications gateway to the world. This is leadership. The future has our name on it. The name to know, RICO.
Your world. Ours. Offer solutions you can depend on, today and tomorrow. Linear, with a part that's always working.
If you can get this Panasonic palm quarter camcorder that helps hold the picture steady when you can't, or take your chances. And remember, palm quarter tapes playing your VHS VCR.
Panasonic, just slightly ahead of our time.
Well, a powerful Farm Belt senator today stoking the budget battles, at least in part, by taking aim at billions of dollars in farm subsidies. Tomorrow, Senator Richard Lugar, the chairman of the Senate Agriculture Committee, will recommend cutting almost 30% of farm spending, chopping a total of $15 billion over a period of 5 years. Senator Lugar is my guest, obviously, tonight, and joins us from Capitol Hill. Senator, good to have you with us.
Thank you, Lou.
Senator, this has got to be a relatively tough proposition. I know you've opposed increases in subsidies before, coming from a farm state. You're battling some powerful forces. Why now, and why such deep cuts?
Well, it's not a personal battle. It's the fact that each one of us who has a responsibility to balance the budget, that's what we're debating on the Senate floor, has got to start where we are. The Budget Committee has asked me as chairman of the Agriculture Committee to play our role, and I'm going to suggest that we cut the target price for corn and wheat and cotton and rice by 3% for each year for 5 years, which would still mean that farmers who are in those programs will be paid on the average more than the market price. And we're not kicking the whole program out, but we are taking $15 billion that's going to be required if we're to ever move toward a reasonable balanced budget situation.
Well, now, President Clinton has also proposed some cuts. Yours are far greater.
Well, the president of agriculture did nothing at all. He really just punted ahead, and that won't work out. The public, by this point, wants to know whether we mean business, and we're going to be held historically accountable if we don't. And farmers understand that. 40% of the farmers in the Midwest believe the federal government ought to get out of agriculture and out of these programs. So it's a sizable debate going on the farm right now.
Those 40%, I presume, are all in Indiana.
Well, that's true of Indiana farmers. About 30% think we ought to phase things out. Another 30 want really more money. I mean, there's still a dispute clearly going on.
Well, among the people, I mentioned some powerful forces. They include the Majority Leader, Senator Bob Dole, obviously of Kansas, Congressman Roberts. Do you feel that you've got the necessary support to move this thing ahead?
Not necessarily, but I've visited with Bob Dole about it. I've talked to Pat Roberts frequently because he chairs the House committee. They know we've got to make cuts of some dimensions. If the $15 billion don't come in this form, plus I'm going to recommend the end of the so-called export enhancement program. We've been subsidizing exports, selling wheat and corn at cut rates around the world that American consumers don't get. We ought to cut that out given the GATT regime, but that gets $15 billion. Now, if people can figure out another way of doing it, I'm certainly all ears. We're going to have many hearings, but I'm trying to make a suggestion now because we've had too much hand-waving about waste, fraud, and abuse. We're down to the short strokes of specifically how this can be done.
Well, we're down to the short strokes on the balanced budget amendment, Senator. What's your forecast on its prospects for passage?
It's going to pass barely, and the 67th and the 68th votes will be very hard to come by, and it looks like we're going to have another week of debate.
Now, you mentioned Senator Dole. You're early. There's a line being drawn, it appears, between you and the Majority Leader in terms of agricultural subsidies. Will that line be drawn further? Are you definitely going to move in and run for the presidency?
Well, I would like to run for president. I'm trying to work out arrangements that would make that feasible financially and organizationally. But let me just say, in fairness to Senator Dole, he understands what needs to happen here. He's been very careful in his language. He believes in the wheat farmers of Kansas as strongly as I believe in the corn farmers and soybean farmers of Indiana. In fact, I've got 604 acres of my own, the only farmer sitting around the ag table. And I know what's involved here, and I believe we're headed on the right course for sound agriculture in the future.
Well, with those flowers and kisses to Senator Dole, your hat will go into the ring for the Republican nomination when, Senator?
Well, very soon. I'm going to New Hampshire, as will Senator Dole, this weekend. We'll all be speaking up there and visiting with people, and in the following week, we'll come to some conclusion.
Okay. Senator Richard Lugar,
thank you.
It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Thank you. Well, next here on Moneyline, with the Dow hitting a new record, it's a day of triumph here at Moneyline for our resident bull. We will give him his due, probably even a little more than his due. Smiling Myron Candell up next. Stay with us.
Moneyline is brought to you by the Archer Daniels Midland Company, ADM, supermarket to the world, and by Merrill Lynch. For our clients, the difference is planning. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
It's called the ripple effect. The way one isolated action can set so many others in motion. You see it in nature, and you can see it in this country's economy, too. When we export our precious resources in their raw form, the benefits are fleeting and few. But when they're processed first and given added value, the momentum is undeniable. Productivity increases. Our balance of trade grows ever stronger. And wave after wave of new jobs is created. Not just in processing, but in everything from transportation to financial services, packaging to construction. In fact, studies predict that if just 10% more of our agricultural exports were traded as value-added products, 100,000 new jobs would be created, personal income would swell by more than $2 billion, and gross output would grow by an additional $5 billion. All within these shores.
In Asia, in Europe, the Americas, and throughout the world, the same set of principles guides all our actions. And while we have as clients more countries, companies, and individuals, we don't judge ourselves by this fact alone. but how we live up to our principles. We think that makes a difference. The difference is Merrill Lynch.
At GMC Trucks, we built a reputation for truck strength. A considerable advantage that also comes in this handy take-home size. Sierra from GMC Truck.
More fallout today from the move by major airlines to cap commissions paid to travel agents. Travel Network, which has 350 travel agencies all around the world today, filed an antitrust suit against 5 airlines alleging collusion and price fixing. That lawsuit, filed as a class action suit on behalf of all travel agencies in the United States, named in that suit America, Delta, Northwest, United, and U.S. Air. Delta saying the suit is without merit. Well, if you guessed the spirit of budget cutting in Washington has cut down on pork barrel spending, you guessed wrong, at least as through last year. Today, the Citizens Against Government Ways put out its annual pig book, a compendium of pork barrel spending. The Citizens Group once again singling out Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia for special criticism. And this, of course, in the previous Congress, saying that Senator Byrd is approaching the billion-dollar mark in cumulative pork spending. Well, our resident stock market bull, Myron Candell, is standing or sitting pretty tall these days as the Dow stands at a record high tonight. But Myron did promise the Dow would be at 4,000 by the end of last year, still a little shy of that mark. So first we congratulate you and explain a little bit why you missed the mark.
Well, Lou, yesterday the stock market gave investors a Valentine's gift in the form of a record high for the S&P 500. That's the average, most closely followed by the investment pros, because it's much broader based than the 30 Dow Jones Industrials. But the Dow is still the most popular among most investors, and today those folks received their present when the Dow powered past the old record to within 2 points of the 4,000 mark before falling back a bit. Despite 7 interest rate hikes by the Federal Reserve during that period, the Dow and the S&P 500 are both at record highs. Not bad. Still, 4,000 is yet to be reached. A lot of people besides Lou keep reminding me I predicted that would happen by the end of '94 and then again by the end of January. Well, the Dow did not accommodate me, not yet at least, but it is about to happen any day now, and even though I'll be late on my prediction, I feel pretty good about it, considering that I was saying 4,000 when the Dow was falling below 3,600 last April, and many others were predicting doom and gloom. What happens after 4,000? I think the Dow goes a little higher, but then I get worried. I'm expecting a correction, maybe 300 points or so. But long-term investors should stand pat, and new money should stand ready, because then I expect another move sharply higher. Lou?
Old money pat, new money ready.
That's exactly it.
All right, Myron, thank you. Well, that is Moneyline for this Wednesday evening, and we thank you for being with us. Good night from New York. There is more news, a lot more news ahead right here on CNN.
This has been a presentation of CNN Business News.
Tonight, in the crossfire, has the issue of national security turned into a battle between the White House and the Republican Congress? Crossfire, 8:30 Eastern on CNN.
Last year, nearly 1.6 million cars were stolen in the United States. That's 1 car every 20 seconds every day of the year. It's time to get serious about crime prevention. It's time for the Club. The Club is a tempered steel lock that's tough to defeat. It remains the only vehicle locking device that's police recommended. I believe the Club to be the best vehicle theft deterrent you can buy. That's why I use it on my personal vehicle. Plus, the Club can protect your vehicle's airbag from being stolen. It's a growing problem that the Club is helping to control. But be aware of the lookalikes and the copycats out there. Be sure your anti-theft device says the Club on the handle. Accept no cheap imitations. Get the one vehicle anti-theft device that police officers like myself recommend. Get the Club. It's time to get serious about crime prevention. It's time for the club. Now over 10 million sold worldwide.
An hour of financial news to start your business day, 6 Eastern on CNN.